We're Hassani and Danielle Pettiford, and we're a real couple with real problems who almost called it quits.
I was very frustrated. I became very disconnected, very jaded and cold.
We have 4 children, going on 20 years of marriage, and we practice what we preach.
Our mission, to change the way couples relate to one another and teach them the skills needed to improve the quality of their relationships. This is the Couples Academy Show.
All right, welcome to the Couples Academy Show. My name is Hassani.
I'm Danielle.
And we're back on Tuesday for another great episode. We just finished the series. We're starting a new one. We've been getting questions from the Moving Forward members that we have, and one of those questions was, how does the unfaithful spouse deal with the consequences of what they've done? And I understood the heart of the question, and it opens it up to an even bigger discussion. So we're going to do this over a couple of shows because we want to talk about what impact or what are the consequences that infidelity has on the marriage, what consequences infidelity has on the betrayed, and what consequences infidelity has on the unfaithful, because I think it will be something different depending upon what side of the offense you're on.
I agree.
And so listen, before we get started, guys, we want to make sure that you take the time to do what, Danielle?
Well, I think they know, right? That they're supposed to like, share, and subscribe and hit that notification bell. And guys, when you come on, make sure that you remember to tell us where you're tuning in from, because I do like to acknowledge those that do. I know some of you, I know y'all, we know you personally, but go ahead and do that because I don't remember. And I want to make sure to acknowledge you. Like I see some faces right now or some people on here right now. I know exactly where they're tuning in from, but just drop it in there so that we can acknowledge you on the second end of the break.
Really quick announcement tonight, we have Lakeisha Hines, our sex coach.
Yes!
She's talking about the things you want to hear, saving our sex lives one bedroom at a time. It's been a long time coming, so make sure every single Tuesday at 9 p.m. you tune into that particular
Listen,
show.
guys, even if you think that you are some kind of pro in the bedroom and you don't need no help, tune into the show because Lakeisha is about to break things down for you that you don't even understand. And if you have experienced the hurt of infidelity, for you, it might be difficult. You might be going with the motions and doing what you're supposed to do, but not feeling it. So make sure that you tune in so that you can get those tools to use in your bedroom.
You can always go to a higher level. I don't care how great things are. It can get better, and so she's going to navigate you through that process. Also, this Saturday, last time, we have our Inside Job 4-hour Enneagram masterclass that Danielle and I will be teaching and leading, and we're excited. We're excited because there's some things that I'm telling you, some new developments, a deeper dive into your Enneagram. You can't know you enough, and now you get a chance to spend time with yourself along with your partner to really unpack some things that you're struggling with that you need to figure out how to overcome. So if you haven't registered for that, the link is in the description below. So make sure you go ahead and do that. Also, Last Chance Weekend coming up next July. There's so much going on. Unearthed, Foundry, the list just goes on and on. We have something for everyone, so we want to make sure that you're taking advantage of that. But anyway, we will play this and be right back right after this one video. Stay right there.
Hey everybody, Danielle Pettiford here, and I am so excited to invite you to our upcoming masterclass entitled An Inside Job. Now, this masterclass is special because you guys have been asking for it. And we have been doing a lot of discussing about the Enneagram and how you relate with your spouse and how they relate to you and the lenses and the perspectives that we all have that differ. But maybe you still feel stuck individually. Maybe for you, you know that you're not operating as your best self. Well, there is a roadmap that leads you right back to you. And it's a very individual journey, but we all can take it together. I'm so excited about this masterclass. I'm excited about showing you how to live a life without fear, without anxiety, without anger, and for you to understand that God already had a plan for you when He put you on this planet. He knew who He had designed you to be. And it's for you to do the digging and discovering to find out who that is so that you can live the best life at the highest calling that God designed for you. So I hope that you will join us in this masterclass. I can't wait to see you there.
That's right, guys. It's coming up Saturday, June 18th. You do not want to miss it. Right before Father's Day, right in the nick of time, so that you can go into Father's Day and just have an amazing connected day because you have understood you and they have understood them. No drama, drama-free, because consciousness does that for you. When we become aware of ourselves and how we show up in the world, we get to do things completely different. We get to make choices. So that's what this is about. Make sure you register today. The link is below in the description.
Consequences, Danielle, consequences. There are always consequences for the things that we do. Sometimes we may not be aware of it. Sometimes we don't give thought to it when we get involved in something, but there is the impact, the repercussions of what it is that we do. And so there are many consequences that relationships go through when there's an affair, and we want to take the time to kind of unpack that because oftentimes, usually the betrayed spouse knows exactly what those consequences are. They're suffering from it. The unfaithful may not be as knowledgeable or doesn't take the time to really pay attention. And so that's where the disconnect happens in relationships. But it does impact marriages in a powerful way. And whatever these consequences are, if you've experienced them, we just want you to acknowledge it, but also know that you can overcome the consequences by going through a process. So let's dive deep. Number one, both you and your spouse suffer the emotional scars of the betrayal. Now, when pain occurs, you have to understand, we say this all the time. If one is unfaithful to the other, it causes hurt, pain, and brokenness in that spouse, tremendously so. And really the focus and the attention is on the pain of the betrayed spouse. But the reality is there was probably some form of pain, brokenness within the unfaithful partner that caused them to do it in the first place. So now you have two people who are broken, two people who are in pain. There's an emotional tearing or ripping or pulling apart, right? And both of you are suffering in different ways. I may be suffering for what you did to me. You were having your fun doing your thing, and I feel the pain of that. And now I'm going to redirect the pain that I feel back on you. And so now you are going to suffer because of what I'm going through. And then it just becomes this thing.
I mean, I think that there's a zillion different ways that people are going to suffer. It just depends on the person, right? Like some people are more about retaliating, right? They're going to make sure that you feel the pain. Other people just suffer in silence. They talk about, consequences, private and repeat, and it's all three, right? The consequences, you take it to your private space, you don't talk about it, and it repeats over and over again. So now you're repeating all these emotions and all these feelings in your head. If you don't have the right guidance and a place to take all this information, to take all this hurt and betrayal, you're really out there on an island by yourself, just constantly repeating these offenses over and over either in your relationship or either in your mind. And so it's extreme. Like, we're suffering from these consequences of the choices that we make, and it's like rolling the dice. We don't know how this is going to impact our partner. And I got to take it to the Enneagram because it's just so important. Some people don't know who they're married to, and they don't understand how extreme the consequences will be to the specific person that they're married to, right? I tend to think that oftentimes when people step out of their marriage or whenever we do something that is unhealthy or toxic, usually we have somebody else in our corner or in our ear that supports it, a friend or something that we were looking at. We were feeding ourselves in some way to make these bad decisions, right? But what is missing is the person that you saw doing it, getting away with it for years, and you've envied them, and you thought one day I'm going to do it, and you did it. They weren't married to your spouse, and your spouse has an individual way of dealing with and processing pain. You're going to have to deal with that. You're going to have to learn it, understand it, and then you're going to have to try to recover from it. And for some, it's a lot harder than for others. It's just not worth the risk.
It isn't. And I want to zone in on the word scar. I remember when I was a kid riding my bike on my way home, I was being chased by a dog. And I was just trying to get away from that dog, and I wound up hitting a tree, and I really jacked my leg up, and my leg was bleeding, and it left a scar. That scar is still here today. Now, this happened 30-something years ago, but I still have the evidence of what occurred.
Yep.
There are many of you who have played sports. Maybe you've been injured. It left a scar. Many of you have been in war, battle, and you got injured, and it left a physical scar. Now, the pain may not be there, but there's a reminder there about what you previously went through. Now, some could say, sometimes it's good to be reminded so you never forget. And there's benefits to that. It depends upon the relationship you have with that past experience. But just as there are physical scars based upon physical wounds that have happened, when you experience an emotional wound, it leaves an emotional scar. And this is something that oftentimes people can't appreciate, particularly your spouse, because they're like, why are you still, that happened so long ago.
Get over it. Get over it. We did all the therapy. You should be over this by now. They expect you to be over. But I don't know if you guys know this, but some actual scars still hurt. Right?
Some do.
Even though the cut isn't there and the stitches have been removed and it has healed over and there is brand new skin, you could see the scar, but the scar sometimes still hurts. And so in the same way with our emotional scars, right? Especially if we haven't done any work to deal with those emotions. And even if you have, to your point, if you give the analogy of the physical scar, there's been a lot of work maybe done on that wound. Maybe there was a lot of therapy, skin grafting, all kinds of stuff that you did, stitches, ointments, lotions, potions, and creams, and you still have the scar there to show, and it's still tender. In the same way, your emotions can be in that same way. You've done the therapy, you've gone through the classes, you're going through the process, and still the emotional wound is tender. It's just so much.
It is.
It's so much to open up into your life.
Yeah. I know where I can get lotion from, but where can I get potion?
Don't you remember I made you that potion, that love potion number 9?
You did do that.
Yeah.
You did do that.
Just ask me. I got all your answers.
Excuse me, when I was a kid, I ran track. And I remember I sprained my ankle one time, and it was always weak. I sprained it 10 more times. When I played basketball, I jacked my ankle up.
Me
and
too.
I was on crutches, right?
Yeah.
And so even though that happened when I was in my teens, I'm careful how I walk, where I walk, because if I walk in a crack and I twist my ankle a certain way, even though it's built up, it's still kind of vulnerable.
Wow.
So I still, even today, have to be careful how I maneuver through things so that I don't re-sprain the ankle.
I think that speaks to the differences between people, which is the point, because same thing with me. Small ankles, I had sprained it 1,000 times, but they built up so much that the one that I would sprain all the time is a little bit bigger than the other one. And so I don't sprain it anymore. You see? So you just don't know how the impact of this betrayal is going to affect you and your spouse. It is literally a clip toss.
Yeah. So it's a scar. Now, once again, the whole point we're getting to is that there's an emotional scar that can remain for quite some time. For some of you, it still hurts, and you just have to figure out how to maneuver and adjust to it. Others, it doesn't hurt, but it's a reminder. And so when it comes up, it's all about the relationship that we have with that past experience. It could be very freeing. We've overcome it. That's where we've been. We're in a better place now. Or we continue to remain trapped by that past memory and experience. And so your ability to properly navigate will send you to a better place. But we're talking about the consequences here. Let's go to the next one. Your marriage will suffer a break in trust, fellowship, and intimacy. And those are 3 different things. Let me jump into the middle, the fellowship piece. Like, think about it. To fellowship, to come together, to spend time with. There's a breach there. There's a break there where for a season, I don't want to look at you. Don't touch me. I'm not trying to date you. I'm not trying to go nowhere with you. The only time we need to come together is for the kids. But when we'll smile in front of the church folk, we'll smile in front of the kids. But once everyone's gone, we're on our own separate space. The fellowship, there's been a breach in the fellowship. And that's a serious consequence because, man, if things were bad then, things will certainly get worse once the discovery and the
you were my person, right? For most of us, our spouse is our person. They are the one that we're closest to. And if you're in a healthy relationship, they are your best friend, right? You talk to them about everything. You go to them about all the things that are important in your life, your children, even your families, your in-laws and your outlaws. Like, this is your person that you confide in. However, after betrayal, you really don't know who they are. I mean, oftentimes you are completely blindsided, shocked, and stunned that this happened. You didn't see it coming. It came out of left wing, and now you don't know who the person is. So you do suffer this loss of connection and intimacy. You don't feel safe talking to them about how you feel about how they betrayed you. You know, suddenly you feel the need to build up a brick wall around you to protect you, an impenetrable wall around you to protect you from the emotions that you feel, right? And the only expression that you now have is anger. You know, now you're just lashing out at this person. It's just a complete shift in how things used to be, and it's overnight, right? And so you're just displaced. How can you have intimacy with somebody who was capable of, you know, devastating your trust in such an intimate, deep way? Like, it's just so difficult.
It is. We were just talking about this last night in our Moving Forward program about the 7 levels of intimacy. And when the trust has been broken, when the fellowship is no longer there, it impacts your ability to be intimate with your spouse. And of course, we mean so much more than just physical, sexual intimacy. It's the emotional, the right. Intellectual, and the spiritual aspect of your connection, which sealed and binded you two together. The ability to become soulmates, because the soul is where your mind, will, emotions, thoughts, intellect, imagination, that's where you really, like when you put your heads together, you're soulmates. But what happens is there's a breach, if you will, and so that level of intimacy that you once had now becomes very difficult, and you got to figure out how to navigate your way through that.
Right.
And these are some of the consequences.
Even wonderful, like, you know, like I don't want to even, I have a good day today and I'm enjoying my day and I'm happy. I used to come to you and tell you about, like, I had a great day. You don't even feel comfortable sharing that intimacy anymore. No. You can't share your joy. You can't share your hurt. You can't ask the questions. Like, you know what it becomes? It becomes all about the duties. Did you pay the bills? You know, like, all you can talk about is the things that keep life moving forward. Are you picking up the kids? Roles and responsibilities takes the place of that intimate, connecting part of your relationship.
And that impacts,
a terrible consequence.
Yeah, that contributes to the next consequence, Danielle, and that is you may be together, but you feel excessive loneliness. See, you could be in close proximity to, like, for instance, we're here sitting at this table. We're physically close to one another, but we could be miles apart, right? Disconnected from each other, but because of this and because of this, we're connected with different people. We're connected in different worlds. There's a loneliness. You could be sleeping in the same bed with your partner, but feel so lonely. There's an emptiness, there's a void from within. And that's what creates the problem. That's one of the consequences. It's just like there's been a breach in this relationship, and how do we get back? How do we get back? And that's the challenge. How many of you right now feel a sense of loneliness? No matter what side of the offense that you're on, you feel it in that relationship. There's a couple that I'm working with who lives in another country, and they live in a one-bedroom apartment that's 400 square feet. But it could feel like a mansion if you're emotionally disconnected from your spouse. You see what I'm saying? And so this is why it's so important to begin to rebuild the relationship in the midst of these consequences. Because if you don't, it can have a long-term impact.
Yeah, I don't want to ignore Princess Jones. She has a question, but I want you to remember on Fridays we have Ask the Experts, and you want to bring all your questions. And we take these questions to Ask the Experts, so we have time to answer them all. But, you know, there are some cases when we have just somebody who is just straight out sadistic. They enjoy seeing other people in pain. They enjoy taking advantage of others, and they do things just because they can. And that's a person that needs therapy. That's somebody that you can't work with and do anything with. That's somebody that all you can do is pray for them and point them in the direction of therapy and support to get the help that they need, because eventually that person will become very isolated. They will eventually they fall on their face, and they experience a very humbling situation to bring them to the light.
Let's go to the next consequence. This is a powerful one. The family may suffer from the affair. You have to understand, when you are unfaithful to your spouse, you may also be, you're unfaithful also to the children, right? Yeah. Those who are living in that household, because they are impacted by what
tremendously
has happened. And oftentimes there's a double pain that they experience, because they have their own personal pain of betrayal because of the impact that it has, but now they're carrying the pain of the betrayed parent. That's a double pain. And it could lead to not just a breaking of the relationship between the spouses, but between the parent and the child. Now, here's the consequence, right? So let's just say I'm unfaithful, right? I cheat. Children are impacted by that. Now they're separate and distant and don't want to talk to me, right? So Danielle is now the victim of the infidelity, and she's going through. And because she's going through, based upon her Enneagram, based upon her personality, based upon her past traumas, she can't be all of what she needs to be. She can't function at work. She can't show up as the loving mother that she once showed up as because she's in her pain. So she isolates herself. She's just all over the place. Now her responsibilities to the children aren't there for that period of time. That causes a breach in the relationship from the parent, right, of the betrayed to the children. So now the children are isolated. They're feeling some type of way. They're taking on the pain of both the parents. They're seeing the fights and the fussing and the cussing and the yelling and the screaming or the complete disconnect. There's a coldness in the household. Everybody is impacted by what one partner has done. So it can have a long-term effect. And then when you're talking about wanting to restore the marriage, well, wait a minute, okay, we're good now because we went through a process, but I have not done the same thing with my child. I haven't had the same conversations. We haven't gone through our recovery. I haven't given them space to share their thoughts and feelings. And so there may be a realignment here, but there could still be a permanent breach if you don't do the necessary work. Now, we're just talking about those within the household, but then there are those outside of the household, because guess what? You are unfaithful to my daughter, my child, right? My sister, my brother, my auntie, my uncle. Other people are impacted. So now when it comes to family affairs, now when it comes to functions and holidays, everything is weird and awkward because of what happened in our own private world. So if what you think you do behind closed doors affects nobody else but yourself, you're sadly mistaken. What you do can affect many people, a generation of people. And that's why we got to consider that consequence.
I agree. I mean, you said it all, but I mean, the only thing that I would add is that you probably experience the break in the family, even if you are in-laws, right? You know, like your children have aunties, right, who may not be blood related, but if there's an effect in the family and there's a breach and there's a breakup or there's a divorce or whatever, it becomes awkward. Or if there's, you know, they're bringing other women or other husbands or other men around, you know, all these things affect, and people don't know how to respond and react to it. And kids are the most affected, I think, because they don't know how to understand these things. They have not developed mature enough to be able to process, these are the things that happen. I think it's just more heartbreaking for them, not knowing why can't I call this person auntie anymore? Or why can't I see this person anymore? That kind of a thing. So definitely has a tremendous impact on family in so many ways.
Listen, guys, we're talking about the consequences that the affair has on the marriage. I hope that this is giving you some insight. We're going to go to a quick commercial and come right back to cover the others, but stay right there for this quick, brief announcement.
Welcome back, everybody. You are watching the Couples Academy show, and we're talking about the consequences of infidelity. But first, I want to acknowledge my people. And I see Jewel is tuning in from Allentown, Pennsylvania. It's Robin's World is in Kansas City. Lisa Corbin is with us. Good morning. Gonzalez is with us, also in Allentown. Tanya is with us from New York. I know you, girl. Jason is with us, tuning in. LaShawn Jackson's with us. Renita, hey, girl. Sharon Carter, thanks for tuning in. Sybil's with us all the way from South Africa.
Yes.
Kruger's.
Just don't try.
Okay. We got Mona is tuning in from North Carolina, Charlotte, North Carolina. Fedlina's with us all the way in hot Las Vegas. I heard it's over 100 degrees. Like, it's hot. It's always hot in Vegas, but not only Vegas, Arizona is hot. In California, it's just hot. The world is hot. It's hot here. It's 98 degrees here. Who else we got? We got Sharon tuning in from Sorrento, LA. Good to see you. Kay Bat is with us from South Carolina. Clive is with us from Barbados. Hey, we need to get out to Barbados. Jason's from Cleveland, Ohio, and I think we're repeating. Now, Amanda's with us from Houston, Texas. Ben Scott, Tennessee. Lisa Corbin, again, Maryland, right? Sandy's with us all the way from Maryland as well, and so on and so on. There's so many tuning in. We really appreciate you guys for doing that every day. We're trying to do our best to bring something to you new, different, so that we can help change your marriage. I got one more to acknowledge. Chebangu is tuning in from Zambia, Africa. Welcome everybody to the show. So we're talking about the consequences of infidelity, and one big one is apathy.
Yes.
Apathy. You think about how sometimes you're between a rock and a hard place, right? You have a situation at hand. Your spouse is unfaithful, maybe repeatedly unfaithful, but you have obligations, situations, all kinds of roadblocks that keep you from just making what people might think is the obvious decision. Get out. They're going to keep doing it again. They have not, some people are in relationships where the spouse basically lets them know, this is what it is. You just need to accept it. I'm a man. Or, hey, this is my struggle. I've been hurt. I've been going through things as a woman. I was touched as a young woman. So this is who I am. And they have not taken responsibility for the change that needs to take place. And so you just become apathetic. Yeah. Like, you just build up a thick layer of skin so that you can no longer feel the pain. You become numb. You disconnect from the emotions of it all. You now get up every day and all you do is go through the motions with no emotions, right? Because I'm just apathetic and I just don't care anymore.
I don't care. I'm not interested. I'm not enthused. It is what it is. Que sera, sera, whatever.
Ain't nothing I can do about it. They won't change. And I got this going on, or I got the kids, and, I want them to have a mother, and I want them to have a father, or I never wanted to be, it's really about understanding what motivates people. That is the key, answer Danielle, to everything. If I know what motivates you, then I know why you're staying in a very unhealthy, toxic situation. But at the end of the day, we can have 1,000 reasons why we decide the best case scenario for me, how I'm going to handle my trauma and my crisis, is I'm going to just put up a big old thick wall and I'm going to become apathetic. Literally, I'm going to constrict my emotions and become numb so I don't feel anything.
And that's the space that people stay in, right? So we'll be married, we'll raise these kids, we'll have this house, because guess what? If we sell the house, where I'm going, how's that going to affect my lifestyle?
Especially right now.
Right?
You can't even sell a house and go anywhere right now.
So let's just agree to do our own thing, to live our own lives, and just show up for the kids, show up for the family when we need to. But don't come over here. You don't be asking for nothing. I'm not giving you nothing. Don't expect dates. Don't expect this. Figure it out. And that's that stuck place that many of us find ourselves. That is your fall and that's your winter season within your marriage, where everything is cold, right? Like, for instance, sister from South Africa said, well, over here it's cold and rainy. And that is the climate of your relationship. It's cold and rainy. And all you do is protect yourself and cover yourself and remain completely disconnected. And that's one of the biggest consequences, to your point, of of infidelity. And what happens is, if you stay in that space for too long, it leads to the final consequence. And that final consequence, folks, is divorce. Now, interestingly enough, that apathetic space that you just talked about, that really speaks to the emotional and social divorce that takes place in your marriage.
That happens first.
To a
Correct.
legal divorce.
Correct. That's the first step. We think that, they just snapped. Nope. They disconnected from you emotionally, first probably spiritually, right? Because when you breach the contract, there is an actual breach. You broke the contract, which was a 3-strand cord between you, your spouse, and God. You broke the contract. So first there's a spiritual disconnect. There's a spiritual divorce, right? But then your heart is still tied to the person. You still love the person, and you're going through the motions of love and anger and love and hate. You're going through that whole wrestle back and forth, and you want to see, is there any hope? Can we discover a path to reconciliation? Is this person having contrition? Are they apologetic for what they did? Are they going to do it again? All these things. And by the time you get to the point where you just have no emotions at all, and you are completely apathetic, you've had a spiritual, emotional divorce, the next step is physical divorce.
Legal divorce. That's
legal
right.
Divorce.
And that's where a lot of people find themselves, legally divorced. And sometimes people think, I just need to get out of this pain. I need to get out of this hardship. And the pathway is to divorce. But what many don't realize is that it's a compounded pain. The pain doesn't go away because you sign papers and now you're technically free. Now you're taking on the other pain of having to deal with this thing all by yourself, not having closure, dealing with the separation of the finances, separation of the kids, having to start life all over again. And so, golly, why did this have to happen in the first place? These are the consequences that happen in your marriage. Now, stay tuned tomorrow, because we're going to be talking about the consequences that infidelity has on the betrayed spouse. If you're the victim, if you will, if you're the one who's been hurt, what impact does this have on you? What are those consequences? And then part 3, we're going to be talking about the consequences on the unfaithful. So stay tuned. This is the topic that you've been waiting for. We love you. We appreciate you. Tune in tomorrow for another great episode. If you haven't signed up for Enneagram masterclass,
do it.
Go ahead
Don't
and do
mess
that.
up. Don't mess up.
Until then, have a phenomenal day, and we will see you tomorrow.
Bye,
Love you
guys.
guys.